Originally, I was not going to cover any of the SCL games in video format this year, but I decided, you know what? These games are pretty fun to look at. So we're going to talk about them today. There are also some very, very good posts in the TNunes sub forum. I'm going to actually leave a link down to our SCL discussion thread down below. So if you want to look at some very, just again, very solid posting done by users like Mr. Django, I do recommend you check out the description. I think he's done a really good job giving insight onto each week, each of the teams people have been bringing. And I always find it interesting to hear people's thoughts, especially because y'all know my thoughts. Y'all know how I feel about teams, generally speaking. So you want a little bit of different perspective, you can get some there. And of course, before we get too far into it, subscribe! It's not an option, it's a demand. I will find you. Anyhow, what's the motto of this week? Well, there's a couple things. There's actually 2 different weeks. I wanted to cover this game, though, in addition to some games from week 3. Or week 2, I mean, my bad. I'm not going over everything because that'd be like 10 battles, so I picked out 4 that I thought there was something worth talking about in. One thing, Flygon's everywhere, but 2, there's been a couple returns of some Pokemon to the meta. Toxtricity and Scrafty specifically. These are 2 Pokemon currently PU, but rapidly rising in usage within NU, at least as far as tournaments go. Whether they catch on with the latter, we will see, but we're going to talk about why these 2 mons are so good as we look at these battles. And this is our week 1 game here, Elias versus TNunes. As you see, Elias Sai bringing a team that 1000% was not built by him. I have zero belief this was a team built by Elias. I think this was built by Shiloh. Maybe GXC, but I'm thinking Shiloh. Why do I say this? Well, if you know anything about Elias, this man loves to use these really bulky teams. Back last year in SCL, he was using a lot of that Chansey Lug core. And if you look at his week 2 team he brought versus Eternally, it was more of that type of team, where dude had like Avalug, Alolan Muck, Bronzong, Vapo, I think. And he had like, yeah, a Kilowattrel and a Basket Legion to help out with some damage. But generally speaking, it's just more of the same. Fat. Doing nothing fun. This is a complete reversal of that. And I do believe the whole point was to try to catch his week 1 opponent off guard, especially since it's TNunes as well, who doesn't play NU frequently. Probably Elias was looking for some sort of edge there to catch his building trends. And to catch TNunes Scout, you know, and say, hey, nothing here applies. Which I think works. I don't like the Rain Elias is using. I think it's a cool build, and if you recognize this team, it's because we faced it on ladder in an NU video a few weeks back. And we did win back then. It was a Decky Dewey video. Shoutouts to him. Why do I not like the team too much? Beyond, you know, my thoughts of, hey, I think it's cool and it definitely can work. I think my biggest issue is 1 Swift Swimmer. I don't think you're maximizing your rain. Now, you could argue, well, what are your other options? It's like things like Kingdra, Ludicolo, and Suiquill, and those aren't very appealing. But I do feel like they still end up doing a lot more good for you than some of these other options. Like, I would 1000% drop, like, Glober on this team and just do Hisui and Quill. That, like, me personally, I would do that. I think it, or even Croak. I think you get a lot of useful mileage out of them. And hey, having a Mon on the team to completely shut down Cresselia is pretty cool. Probably not get rid of Croak, because I think, especially in this battle, you see just how important the Croak is. But Glowbro feels like a bit of a pace killer. It is a eject button on the team, so I think it still follows the logic of Rain very nicely. Just maybe not my favorite Mon to have on here, where I think you can get a little bit more offensive power and still, you know, not really cede too much of note. TNunes, on the other hand, why do we see the Mons on his team? Well, Scrafty. What did I say about Elias's team styles? He loves fat teams. What does Scrafty do best? It beats the holy hell out of fat teams. So I think that was a good pick in terms of what you would expect from Elias. And Toxtricity I also believe is really good, because this Mon is just really powerful. And even some of the bulkiest teams, the reality is Toxtricity as a Mon requires super perfect play. And I think a lot of people would say TNunes is a better pilot than Elias. Meaning, give this man a super powerful breaker, pair him against a really do-nothing passive team where the person piloting that team has to get a ton of plays right versus TNunes, and you can kind of see where everything comes together. definitely a team where it was meant to counter style very heavily. It just ran into a complete polar opposite matchup, but it's still a good matchup, right? Toxtricity has a lot of opportunities to actually do stuff against this build because, I mean, Kilo can't really touch you outside of rain. Torn can't touch you really, period. I mean, unless it's under rain with Weather Ball, but you could still counter lead that. Slowbro is getting popped. Klefki can't do anything to you. And even, even Croak is not doing much without boosts. So you still have a lot of room for this one. Scrafty less so, although you will see Scrafty actually has a key purpose this battle. So as we get into it, Torn lead versus, as we said, would probably happen Toxtricity, just because so many of these ones can't do anything. And a Boomburst is just thrown off, because, like, okay, even if you go Legion, I've got a whole health Vapo on my team, so it doesn't really matter. And then you're going to see a lot of... This early battle is literally all about repositioning. So you see here an attempt at flip turning, probably predicting a spike to just be thrown up. Instead, though, Croak pivots in effortlessly. Then Tornadus gets in, throws off a taunt, trying to just generate like a free rain dance without seeding anything. Instead, taunts into Toxed and loses on 50-50 there and gets boisted. So that's not too good. Legion comes out. And this is why I said we're going to see some use for Scrafty later. And also, frankly, another reason I don't like this team. It's Special Basket Legion. Yeah, Vapo. So there's one thing that I will give this. This is an incredible magnet for Vapo. You have a Toxicroak. And I think that is where you're going to see most of the mileage for Elias come. Okay, you all literally watched me reloop it right there. I have nothing to say. But this is where you're going to see a lot of the mileage for the Croak come and the Basket Legion. I'm going to make you keep coming out versus me. I will keep getting Croak in from here on out on double switches. And if you don't catch me, you are screwed. So yeah, he goes for Wish here. He can't really justify staying in because you super free SD. And we're going to see a switch here, but keep in mind, that mod is a problem lurking for the rest of the battle. So once again, like Legion's here, Shadow Ball's probably coming out. So this time we do see the Scrafty come out, as Elias makes a really good read there with the Soif, and now once again you could double the Croak. Because Croak, 1, could still switch into the Scrafty super easily, but 2, it covers the Vapo switch, which is what happens. And this time, I like what Elias does here, goes for some chip here. You see it's a super specially defensive Bronzong, as it takes 47 from unboosted CC. And then the Kilo's able to come out here. You can look for maybe some Volt Switch repositioning as the Tox comes out. So this keeps up your momentum. He didn't do what I said to do, though. Any Hurricanes, which means Toxtricity will now be picking up some more free damage. We see a Boomburst onto the keys. Kind of annoying there, too, because you would not have been 2-shot otherwise. But it does give you Legion here. And, hey, TNunes is not getting a single one of these plays right. He actually even gets this play very wrong, as Elias went for the Big Pumper, just unfortunately missing onto the Scrafty. But we do see a good switch here, again from Elias, still bringing in the Croak, covers the plays of both Scrafty staying in and the Vapo double. Unfortunately, here's where Elias makes a play that I really don't understand. Sword Stand's correct, but he then CCs the Bronzong, and I don't really understand this at all. And he just dies to Psychic Noise. So why is this a bad play? Well, 2 things. 1, I don't know when CC makes sense. So the idea would be that you CC because the Zong you don't think will Terra. My problem with that is this team doesn't really have counterplay to +2 Croak. Now, there's a couple things you could have been going for, right? Maybe he thinks, and I'm not going to say it's a... Let me rephrase. I see logic to the play, but I disagree, and I think there were plays that were more likely. So, what's my play here? Why am I saying that I think this is not the right play? I would have gunked for a few reasons. 1, this may Terra Fairy. The team's really weak into Croak. You may try to go for the proactive Terra to try and beat Croak with your Psychic Noise. Also means Tox will still die to that. Gunk Shot will pack it up, and if you're worried about it coming, you have Sucker Punch afterwards anyway, right? Like, if you're slower, you shouldn't be ever, even if you're adamant. These are almost always modest. You're usually gonna smack it. If Talon comes out too, you have Gunk. It just is as simple as that. And what else do we know, by the way, too, with regards to the Talon? It's probably not Wisp on this team because of how he's played the Talon. If he had Wisp, he would 100% have been going Talonflame a little bit more instead of always going Bronzong, right? Now, in a way, you could also say, well, he's going Zong because he wants to catch the gunk shots because Talon is so obvious. Well, dude, he's sword stanced up every damn time. Sword stancer CC'd. I think we can assume at this point he's not trying to catch the Talon. Like, you could mix that in there. So, fun fact, I have the team. I can confirm it's not Wisp. But I think as well from, like, the lines taken, you know that. So, I believe overall gunk shot made more sense here. Even if you're a little bit scared of gunking, because you don't know for sure what the Zong's gonna do, you could still Terra Dark with Croak as you gunk. Or even as you CC. Because I don't think body press from this is really likely. So you Terra Dark the Croak, and then you're also safe versus side noise. So you could still CC there. And then you get, you know, if he doesn't Terra, then obviously you're, oh, okay, well, you're Dark type now, but that's still good in the matchup. And gives you the immunity to side noise in case of a misplay from, or not misplay, but in case you don't correct. Yeah, I can't speak. It would cover them Terra Ferrying still as UCC, because side noise will not do any damage. There you go. So that's my logic on why gunk shot was right. You see these crits now really come back to bite Elias because of the keys now dying to double crit. No rank can go up, but what you're also about to see, I don't even want to call this a throw from TNunes. You just end up seeing how somehow this matchup was more favorable than I would have ever given it credit for. Like, we talked about how good the Toxtricity was here. Or not Toxtricity, Toxic Croak. You're about to watch as Kilo Watch will put in so much overtime. So Kilo gets the cane to hit on Zong. He Volt Switches there. Huge crit, primarily because now this mod is in range of Hurricane. That's big, of course. And then Glowbro here, he just ends up staying in. I think reality was he didn't want to go Legion and give up potential momentum, so he felt it was just better to stay in and, you know, let Tox pick up a kill and then go back out to Kilo Watch, or potentially still just go out to Legion there. Probably Kilo. As here you'll see Glowbirds get sacked. But now again, Kilo gets to come out. And I mean, every time Kilo's out, it gets a kill. So Hurricane here, and Scrafty. I will say, I think this play here is a misplay from Elias because he actually Volt Switches into Legion, which, I mean, this ends up dying to a poison here, which is kind of funny. You were actually, no, you were most likely faster. So this poison actually sucks. Most likely faster because, again, these are almost always modest. This will be modest too, but it's 255 versus 247 speed. 249. So poison sucks just because it means you can't get the Shadow Ball chip. But Hurricane we know was in range. I think the reason he still ultimately went for Volt is because he felt that he had an in-game with Kilo. And as you see here, he hit an in-game with Kilo. Unfortunately, he's not Terra Blast Fairy, but he hits the cane on Flygon. It hits itself, but he mispredicts. He goes for a Thunder trying to catch Vapo, which I don't know if Thunder kills Vapo from this range. We could open up the calc in here real quick. I'm pretty certain, though, that you don't need to make that play. We'll just assume he's the Dex set. We don't actually know for sure. But as you see here, Thunder from Kilo does do enough damage to pick it off. And he's not lefties, so you don't need the Thunder like that. You could just go for the safe Weather Ball, pick off Flygon. Here he does go for Weather Ball, but then he misses Thunder. And I mean, obviously, the reason I'm saying this anyway would just be to safely pick off Flygon and ensure that it's not in the back, capable of revenge killing you with an EQ. Because now that you miss Thunder here on Vapo, it could just EQ you and win the game. He misses a second Thunder. This one doesn't matter because he lost by this point. But I do think that was the incorrect line to take at the end. It's obviously still a matter of unlucky, right? I mean, he hits his Thunder, he wins. Simple as that. I mean, technically Flygon still could have crit with EQ. Because I don't know about y'all, but I know my Flygon calcs pretty well. And Kilo Watchel, I also am aware of this Pokemon not being very bulky. So U-turn actually doesn't do enough chip. Technically, it does 17 to 20 though, which is 70 to 20 is potentially enough to put in an EQ range if you get a high roll EQ. So there's that. So very unfortunate. I think at the end of the day, there was probably still, just because he was able to save Flygon, even if Thunder hit and the Kilo's at full, there's definitely just still a world where Elias loses because Flygon can do it, right? I do think this game ended up coming down ultimately to the Croak sequence going poorly, but there were definitely outs at the end. It would have come down to some damage rolls. Unfortunate. Game 2, though. Game 2. And you may be wondering, where's the Scrafties? Don't worry about it. Here's another Toxtricity. Also, this time it's TNunes on the other side. So Watashi, why do I want to feature this game? Because Watashi brought Flygon, Klefki, Bramble, and I don't know about y'all, but I do remember me using this Hazard Core a lot at the very beginning of our DLC meta. I just remember thinking like, okay, well these kind of work together. You could fit maybe a better water resist as well alongside them. Same as like a better fire resist, because I don't really want to rely on Flygon to check fires, nor do I want to rely on Bramble to check waters. It's just kind of like, not too good. So I remember building with that a lot, and I saw his team and I was like, oh, this is so cool. One concern with Watashi's team could be that it's a little slow depending on sets. Like, ostensibly, that's not even the right way to use that word. Generally speaking, I look at the team, and I would say Scarf Shao is probably here. On the flip side, you could argue for other sets like Protective Pads or Life Orb as well, just to always free up pivoting into the Toxtricity. So like you could CC into Plume and then like U-turn afterwards if you're Protective Pads, right? Pads would also have triple axle, but ignore that. It's not important. I'm just trying to think of ways you could talk about pivoting safely. Or if you're like Life Orb still, though, the same thing applies. You could CC and then U-turn if you feel like you're just better and not going to get effects board. All that beside the point. Overall, it's a very cool team. I think it works really well in this matchup, especially because look at Toxtricity. Yeah, it is a brutal matchup. You do have Zong, but on this type of team, where it's a lot more offensive from TNunes instead of a more balanced build. Was this team more balanced? Yes, this was more balanced. There you go. Nice little balance core right here. This is more offensive though, and generally, so you see these two are probably more defensive, just still so you have that little backbone to fall back on. Ensign will be taking upon more of a specially defensive role. Zong's gonna have a lot more physical bulk, so Boomburst is just really, really easy to get a lot of use out of this game. TNunes' team, though, in terms of breaking, definitely has some potential here. Once again, we see another match where Croak is just scary, just for firing off attacks. It's really hard for Watashi to pivot into it, and there is a Vapo. So you do have a very safe entry point. You can even just throw off Swords Dances if you really want. Again, like, it's kind of safe. And even something like the Flygon on the other side is going to be a little annoying. It does depend on the set, of course, for Flygon, but it's not like it's a super easy one to pivot around. You have outs. Bramble, if it's bulky, will take EQ okay enough. Klefki can be Magnet Rise. You have your own Flygon, so if it's a choice locked one from TNunes, you could punish EQs potentially. Look for momentum of your own. And I forget if we said it, but Vapo. Vapo can tank an EQ okay enough. Bandit, it's a little bit dicier, but is what it is. And Kilo as well. Kilo can still do some stuff. We saw in game 1 how Kilo was able to still pressure Toxtricity pretty well. And if it's Hurricane Kilo, then like it will do enough damage to where the Mon does not switch in repeatedly. So we see Zong led. Toxtricity is the lead here. Very good Volt Switch turn 1. Not needing to think too hard. And we also see how much, again, this is why I was saying, it is a big threat because the Zong is more physically bulky. This does not take these hits well. Volt Switch doing that much. You Terra Normal Boomburst will do just about as much. Where's your switching? I don't know. It's not here. We see the Bramble switching to Side Noise. It's a pretty bulky Bramble we find out here. Because Leech Seed's thrown off. You really don't see that unless the Bramble has a bit more defensive invest than usual. As Shao comes in. And Shao reveals Protective Pads. Now this is where we see a misplay from TNunes as he goes Croak, which is fine. The problem is, he then does not switch again trying to reposition. Although, admittedly, there's not really a lot of repositioning you can do because Mian Shao is insanely hard for this team to switch around. Especially when it has the liberty of freeing up moves. And what did I say earlier about Protective Pad Shao? It has triple axle always, because that's the whole reason you run it. So you can axle Plume very, very safely and not worry about effect Spore just randomly sleeping you. So TNunes loses one of his best mons really early, very unfortunate for him. We didn't see what Insanity is, except this time Insanity works, as he Volt Switches 3 times in front of a Flygon, and on the third one, yeah, the Flygon switched. So really, really good reluctance to change there. This time, though, Watashi with the correct read, staying in on the U-turn as, dude, Song took 31. And Insaido's here, obviously doing nothing at all. So Tox is able to pick up another one with the Boomburst. This is not going to be no Terra Normal Bronze Song. Don't even talk about it. I don't want to hear nothing about it. Inteleon out now. And this is where it sucks that you lost Croak so early. Because now, you don't have the Mon that just enters versus Vaporeon and says, hey man, stop talking all that trash. So, Vap was able to now be pretty much unpunished. You do have Kilowattrel here, which is still able to enter and like threaten damage, of course, but you're gonna get the Protect up. Now you don't really care nearly as much. Like, you're at full, you don't die to anything. You also have a Flygon that you can still pivot in. And since it's Air Slash Kilo, it actually can't even beat Flygon because you don't two-shot, and since it's Scarf, you get declawed twice and die, so very, very funny here. Big Wrestle Cat comes out now. You're actually about to see that Incineroar is pretty problematic for Watashi's team. So a Sword Stance is used here. Leech Seed does not matter. You just get knocked. Your block has been removed forcibly from your spine. As then, an incredibly good read from TNunes. This was not a hard read to make. Boomburst was always happening here. But hey, he's Terra Ghost, so it works out really well. I think on this team too, Terra Ghost definitely makes a lot of sense because fighting types are so scary. So you do want that Terra on Incin that just completely blanks the scary move. I think Terra Poison would have been fine too, but I do like seeing Ghost. Now here, I don't know if Watashi needed to Terra Dark himself, but he probably didn't need Terra on anything else anyway. And the usefulness of this is you force Incineroar to self-KO with its Flare Blitz. If you did not Terra Dark with Xiao, it's not going to KO itself. So this works out well. And then you just go out to your Scarf Gone, Dragon Claw the Inteleon, and a Dragon Claw the opposing Flygon. Very easily done for Fooly, aka FLCL, aka Watashi, aka the winner of this battle. Very nicely done. We go into battle 3. Stories versus the Doc. And here's where you get more Scrafty gaming. Aren't you happy? So the story of Scrafty in this game is a quite funny one because I love how I said that because I'm about to talk about stories. Oh, I'm so good at this. So stories of Scrafty is DD Encore. And I do think it was a little misplayed this game. Why is that? Well, we just gotta start this battle off and you'll find out. I'll give a little leaking before battle. This Quagsire uses Stealth Rock. There's a Bronzong on the Doctor's team. Now, I know he got a PhD in something different. The B in his name does not stand for Bronzong, I regret to inform you all. But when we see Rock's Quag, I do think you have to immediately be on red alert for Demonzong, the Double Dance set with stored power. I don't think Stories was on red alert. Now, generally speaking, knowing that, right, we're gonna come into this preview, and I'm gonna give you the breakdown knowing that. Stories does not know that from preview, obviously, so perhaps her game plan earlier on in her head was a little bit different, where you're thinking maybe Rock, Zong, Spikes, Quag, Spin Gast, and then like, you know, potentially like bulk up Scrafty, Scarf or Banded Gone, whichever one you really want. I personally would do Banded, I think, here. I think it seems a little weak, but if you've got, you know, again, maybe your Spikes plus Rocks, Scarf Gone ends up being okay, because you've got Hazards to break for you, you've got potentially, Lazzle as well. It's just a strong enough Mon to rely on. Kind of just depends maybe on how you're feeling that day. So that's kind of how I would look at this team from preview, not knowing that it is Demonzong, but now that we know it, Rocks, Quag, Demonzong, how do you beat that with this team? I don't know. Now, naturally, I would mention this as Encore. That would shut it down. It's a little risky still, because I would body press predicting a Scrafty to switch in, but it's still nice as a Mon where you can limit the Zong overall. You have ways to force it to have to use stored power to get a KO as well. You could obviously always aggressively get it in on a boost, Encore lock it at that, and you're okay. And Scrafty in general from stories this game is quite scary, especially since we know it's DD Encore. Quag is going to struggle a little bit more to beat it 1v1, and as long as you are Shedskin and actually getting it to activate, then you should be able to stay pretty healthy and just win. Yeah, I can't really say much more about that Scrafty. And otherwise, too, I mean, I like the, Kilo this game. Just generally speaking, I always am gonna like Kilo in matchups. It's just, it'll always be a matter of how effectively you predict with it. I mean, that's really the reality of a mon like Kilo, where it is so fragile that you want to maximize each turn you have it out on the field. But we see Quagled, and it's kind of what I mean, too, about the, DD lines later being, or the Scrafty lines later being misplayed. As you see Rocks really early. So, Rocks Quag. Again, I mean, red sirens going off in my brain. Red sirens. Anyhow, Stories get some really good repositioning done here. Getting in Scrafty versus the Bramblegast. And now she gets to DD up with Scrafty. Now, it's a slow mon, so it's still outsped by Lazzle. And if it's Scarf Gone, then you're outsped by that. But you get to start applying a lot of pressure very quickly. As you do here also, very nice Scout. He may have just been trying to come in on a Drain Punch as well. But regardless, I'm going to give him the credit. It's a very nice Scout of the Encore, because DD Encore is a pretty standard set, generally speaking, for Scrafty. And he's able to get his Salazzle in, get a little bit of chip. As Stories goes for another DD, still does not manage to find a Shed Skin, as the Lazzle reveals Protect as well. So it could be Plot, it could be Protect 3 attacks, I guess. But now, the Doctor will be bringing out Quag. And unfortunately for him, the Scrafty does decide to shed its coat. And it's going to get to Drain Punch up as well. Get back to a pretty good amount of HP. Then get sacrificed here. And yeah, that was tough. So, as I look at this play, I do still struggle to understand the sack myself. I think when you saw Quag reveal Rocks, you do want to keep the Encore around, because that is your way to stop bulky setup on this team. Otherwise, I think Zong has a little bit of an easy time setting up. Because once Zong Iron Defenses, how do you... It is hard to break. I guess you have Kilo, you could Thunderbolt spam. But that's about it. Otherwise, it's very tough. You can actually always Calm Mind as well. But then it's always a tough turn. I'm gonna be real, it is still a little awkward on that first turn of boosting, so it's not that simple, my bad. But, I think you want to preserve this still. I think having the Encore insurance is really good, and I mean, you have full health Zong come in and check this. I'd say Plume, but you're about to see on this turn here, the Plume takes a devastating amount of damage from this outright. 43 from Scarf Gone is an awful lot. I think it's Scarf. Yeah, am I wrong? Is this Bandit gone? I may have been lying to myself this entire time. Have I been lying to myself this entire time? Oh god, I have been. Oh my god, I've fallen off. Wait, no, it is Scarf Gone. Here's the Bandit damage. It's a high roll, but like, dude, that's so much damage. Anyhow. That's what I meant by Plume's not like an amazing switch in there, because it still takes quite a lot from Outrage. Anyhow. Flygon comes out on the Lazzle here. You could look for a KO, but it is awkward because do you want to EQ lock into this team? Not really. And EQ lock she does, and lose the game she does, because Zong boost, it is here. And I think going Bronzong of your own here is really not good. Personally, I wouldn't do that. I don't know how your Zong stops this one. Potentially, the thought process here was it wasn't going to be the setup Zong. And I do think that's justifiable. If you think the Bronzong is just going to be here for a defensive purpose, or maybe just be Iron Press with some coverage, I could see that as well. Maybe like Protect, fit that in, just have it still provide a general Steel-type purpose. That probably is the thought process here, because otherwise, I don't think you can go Zong on Zong. Because this team, it doesn't have to be Rock Zong either. It could have been Rocks on Flygon. But now the Zong's been allowed to boost 3 turns in a row. The game is over unless bad luck strikes. Because the Plume dies off his stored power. And now here, I will say, this Bronzong fights for its fucking life. So Psychic Noise stopped a little bit of lefties it would have gotten. You do end up actually healing almost out of body press range entirely, as a stored power comes out there, trying to catch the Kilo just to make sure that it goes bye-bye. Does not work, though. So the Zong actually ends up getting a lot lower than it perhaps had to get. Like, I mean, it's still at a good amount of HP, sure, but like, instead of being at almost 100, it's at 56. So now you do have to worry a little bit about crits potentially messing you up. So the Tauros even comes out. And you do see that Terra Water Wave Crash from, I think that's Banded. Doing a lot, just not enough. And then the Kilo is able to come out here. She tries to flinch it with Air Slash down. It just doesn't work. I don't think it mattered which move you went for, because T-Bolt does not kill from this range. Would have almost killed, but you're just not going to have enough tools at the end with how healthy the rest of his team is. And yeah, Zong sweeps. So I may deep dive this game a little bit more. I'll even just like ask, hey, what was up with that play? Because I'm not too sure about... I think... I don't know if this was just not a set being respected. But yeah, it definitely came back to bite her. Zong loved this set. I think it's very fun. Zong did it. Now we get to the last game. I'm gonna be honest, this isn't necessarily an amazing game of Pokemon, but I think ZS's team is really cool, so I wanted to show it. And I also think Danny's team is really cool. So, hey, I'm showing off two teams I liked, despite the battle itself being a little bit uneventful. So why do I like these? So this is a cool take on webs. I think Iraq is a cool mon to see. I think Hisui and Braviary is a really cool mon to see as well. Iron Thorns, y'all know how I feel about that guy. Just overall a very neat team from ZS. Danny's team, why do I like it? Well, it's just a balance build, but I think it's a very smart way to build balance. As stated in the past, Eternally has also stated this to me. Neither of us think balance in Inyu is particularly strong right now. It definitely is, it's not that it's unplayable, it's just one of the weaker builds. But I think Danny built it a really smart way, because you've got, nice little defensive core here, but you got your Alolan Muck. And Alolan Muck's gonna be nice because it's a fat, boring mon, but it's not one that just completely cedes momentum. It's got some presence to it. I still think it's a little bit overrated on the VR right now, but I still think it's like a solid mon and definitely a cool way to experiment with balance, avoiding the issues of passivity from really coming into play. And then you got your little offensive core here as well. Kilo, Flygon, Boros, I'm gonna call it. We got Waros for the water one, I'm gonna call it Fire one Foros. Boros. Oh god, I'm so dumb. What I like here, though, again, you got a lot of speed. You don't even have to be Banded Gone on this team. You definitely still can be. I just think these mons are still so generically strong that it's okay. Plus, you have a Alolan Muck as like a guaranteed progress maker in the vast majority of matches, which is nice for you. I also like how Danny's team prevents itself from being too weak to hazards because, hey, look, immune to spikes, immune to spikes, immune to spikes. Most of the time, boots. Can very easily run boots, can very easily run boots. And another nice thing, too, y'all know how I've been preaching the good word of Decky Dewey with an NU. One of the benefits to Danny's build here, one of the issues I guess I could start with Alolan Muck. His Decky Dewey is actually pretty hard to beat with it if they want to just burn Terra very early. Like, one, if they're like Poltergeist and Decidueye, I'm pretty sure if rocks go up and you're not boots, it polters you once, and then the next time you try to come in, it will Sword Stance, polter you, and you'll die to Terra Ghost +2 after a bit of chip. So that's very funny. Regardless, it's doing a lot. Y'all saw, and you didn't see, I didn't upload that video because I wasn't happy with the quality. +2 Spirit Shackle from Spell Type Sid after your Terra. That's a lot of adjectives, so let's spell them out. +2 Spell Tag Terra Ghost Spirit Shackle from Decidueye does like 61 to 72 to Alolan Muck. Poltergeist is a good bit stronger. So you could literally Terra Ghost with Decid immediately and just Polter Muck and put it in range of +2 for later. So the way he fixes that from being as big of an issue is he has Fire Tauros. And I mean, yeah, that gives you a little bit extra insurance. It's a small little wrinkle, but I think it's cool. Also helps against Incineroar, which I found some Vaporeon teams a little weaker in Incineroar than I would really like them to be. So this is just, again, another little cool thing to see. You're also going to see this is a fun little set, too, as we start off the battle. ZS, I already talked about why I like his team, just as a general thing. In terms of the matchup here, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. It's just, are you going to get run down by webs or not? I will say, one of the big things I would favor Danny, because webs are almost utterly useless this game. All the fast mons are immune to them. So, like, you don't even get to set them, really. The main thing is just going to be, can this Braviary exert so much pressure that you get run down by it? That is what I would always look out for this game. Anyhow, Shandy's led with. Balloon is popped immediately, and we see Nathaniel make a very good play by getting in the Tauros on a flamethrower. And then we see ZS completely disrespect the move Earthquake here and die. Now, I don't blame him. Definitely an angle to look at Danny's team from would be Banded Flygon, bulk up Tauros. And EQ, I do think EQ is a move you have to care about, but you could just as easily expect maybe, say, Trailblaze. So, a little unfortunate. This is a very funny turn. I thought this Wisp was hilarious, partly because you're assuming you win a speed tie, but also the Flygon rocked up, which was one of the moves I expected the least out of this turn to come from it. I expected like a U-turn maybe, which, hey, if it was U-turn and won a speed tie, like say it was like banded with U-turn, Iraq would come out and be immune to Wisp because of Water Bubble. Instead, Rock's gone on webs. Just, it's an uncommon thing, right? Normally you see DD. And it could even be Rock's DD. No. We see it as not Rock's DD. It U-turns out. So unless the last two moves are DD Earthquake, which God forbid you run that ZS, I will fling you into the Niagara Falls. It's probably not DD God, so we see it thrown out here, because, I mean, this Mon is worthless. Crit there's a little unfortunate, just because, I mean, maybe you dodged the next one. He does make a smart scout there, switch out, just in case it's Fimp. And as you saw there, it was Fimp. Dory now can enter. Unfortunately, it's a little hard for ZS to find good momentum. And it's not really going to get any easier at any point. A rat comes in, reveals helmet. Unfortunately, gets poisoned very early by this muck. And you see how this comes into play. Vaporeon would probably... I don't know if it loses the exchange because of Wish power points just being so much more immense. But it certainly can't win this exchange when it's poisoned. As you see, and I'm just going to skip turns because the video is 37 minutes long already. You don't need to see this drag out. You do see the Iraq slowly but surely losing HP, as Braviary does get in on a Protect here. And you do see the damage output this mon's capable of here. Lands that Sheer Force Hurricane to 78. Freaking million damage here. Does try to go for an agility. Very last-ditch effort type beat here. Crit's kind of whatever. You're in range of the Alolan anyway. Pretty much here you're just hoping you can get like a crit, because you're not killing anyway. Unfortunately, he misses entirely, so we'll never know what would have happened. Iraq comes out here, as you do actually now get the luxury of throwing off Liquidation. So that's a thing. I personally Leech Life here, just because I know he's setting up rocks. ZS unfortunately liquidated again, though. It doesn't really matter that much at the end, but it maybe helps. I mean, the thing is, it's kind of tough anyway, because you'd get a double down in that case, and I don't know if a double down is any better for you than having Iron Thorns come out here. Like, maybe, I don't know, bro. I think a double down may actually be worse, because this lets you DD up before Flygon can enter, so there's that. But he does go for the Dragon Dance as big Fire Tauros enters, and he ends up being Terra Ground as well, so the EQ does not kill. And of course, ZS having not Terra'd yet, probably just didn't feel like his Terra was worth burning. If he was Terra Fairy, it probably was. But then you have to Terra Fairy into, like, second DD. And there was still a risk that it just wisped you anyway. So it didn't really guarantee anything. Dory reveals Terra Dark. With Adrenaline. Jesus. I forgot just how cursed this Monkey Dory was. My god. The ultimate screw you to Incineroar. But like I said, I thought these were two really cool teams. So I wanted to showcase this battle. Even I thought the battle itself was a little uneventful. I thought we saw some cool ideas. I really like Danny's team, because this, I obviously know I like balanced teams. This is a very cool way to do balance. So, good work, Danny. And look at, dude, Danny says I never cover any of his wins. Be happy I didn't cover your week 1 game. I covered your week 2 instead. Anyhow, hope y'all enjoyed. Let me know down below if you, that was not English. Let me know down below if you want to see any more SCL coverage, because I'm willing to do it. I just want the games to be interesting, the teams to be interesting. My one concern is I'm not too interested in a lot of the teams that have gotten used this tournament. I would say these 4 battles at least. I like the teams overall. The only team I generally just did not like was probably this one. But that's only because I think there's just something about it. I can't even put it into words. It's not that I'm calling the team bad, it's just a team I don't like. Literally it. Yesterday's video as well, a good example of a team I just don't like. Where is it? Hold on, PU. Why am I looking in on this team here? And it's not that I still won games with it. I just didn't like the fact it was slow, you know? You can dislike good teams, and I would never call this a bad team. It has too much success at high-level tournaments to be a team I'd call bad. But I digress. Hope y'all enjoyed. Like I said, let me know down below if you want to see more of this. And yeah, peace.